Good evening. My name is Susan Jolie, and I live at 7503 Walton Lane, and I am president of the Hummerwood Civic Association, representing 250 households. We urge the Planning Commission to adopt the recommendation of your professional staff and decline to add the nomination to the work program. The residential property included within the scope of this proposal is an integral part of the neighborhood that simply cannot support high-density development. This nomination is not a dog with fleas that can be rescued. This is more like a rabid animal who's terrorizing the neighborhood, and the only reasonable governmental response is to kill it now. The current comprehensive plan at page 36 forecloses northward expansion of the community business center at this specific location. Expansion would degrade fundamentally the surrounding residential communities, cause irreparable environmental damage, drastically increase traffic hazards, create on-street parking congestion, destroy the distinctive rural character of the neighborhood, and undermine efforts to promote desirable development where it belongs in central Annandale Business District. At the outset, let me address a common misperception people have. The existing commercial businesses fronting Little River Turnpike and Hummer Road are not included within the scope of this nomination. We have produced Figure 1, which is a series of representations of what this site would look like if the proposal were to be effectuated. Aerial view is provided in Figure 2, and this demonstrates that two of the largest structures with the residential units, buildings A and B, would be constructed on property now zoned for the lowest density residential use. Virtually all of the complex consists of impervious surfaces that will generate pollution and runoff in very close proximity to the Cub branch that feeds Accotink Creek. As you can clearly see, this also justifies the staff recommendation concerning encroachment, lack of buffer, and failure to orient towards Little River Turnpike. The comprehensive plan at page 7 prioritizes preservation of ecological resources. That's important because the impacted residential properties have a vital role in the ecosystem that includes two major parks, the 53-acre Annandale Park and the Manassas Gap Park, and they basically straddle Hummer Road. Surface water nourish mature trees and support an array of wildlife. There are residents that are still getting water from wells. Surrounding residential property that abuts this proposed development is a function of early subdivisions that provided for very large lots or narrow and deep lots. They're connected by a very few rudimentary roads, and there are deed restrictions and easements that have fostered natural habitat that is now threatened. The rural character of the neighborhood and the abundance of our wildlife are distinctive features that are worth preserving. Importantly, residents value their natural surroundings, and they therefore voluntarily preserve large portions of their land in a natural condition. Stormwater is managed by a system of stormwater easements that require property to be kept in a natural state. It's serviced by a primitive system of culverts, ditches, and streams at the side of roads. These large natural drainage areas connect to the protected areas in the Manassas Gap Park and Annandale Park. Nonetheless, we experience soil erosion and flooding of streets in lower areas. This would be exacerbated by any high-density development. Further study would merely confirm the comprehensive plan conclusion that high-density mixed-use development should not be sited in such close proximity to this natural environment. The infrastructure to support high-density development is lacking. There are relatively few roads, and most are hilly, windy, and narrow, with limited sight lines. They have no shoulders, no gutters, no sidewalks. Residents use these roadways to walk, run, bike, and walk their dogs. Residents want to keep the rural feel of the neighborhood. The nomination papers state that a traffic study is mandated because a minimum of 5,000 vehicular trips per day would be added. Because our streets do not meet VDOT standards for this volume of traffic, millions of dollars would have to be spent to enable residents to safely use their streets, to handle the traffic that is generated by this development. No further study is required because we do not currently need or want these improvements, and taxpayers should not have to pay when the obvious answer is to reject this incompatible high-density development. Congestion will overwhelm the neighborhood. With some exception, roads do not have the necessary clearances for on-street parking, but that will be an inevitable consequence of adding so many additional parked and moving vehicles to this neighborhood. Added traffic poses a safety threat to drivers, pedestrians, and bikers. Additional vehicular trips will inevitably be producing more dangerous cut-through traffic. Sight lines are obstructed. Cars cannot see walkers or joggers around the bend or over the hill. Trucks routinely block one lane to deliver goods, mail, or even to cut the grass, because there are no shoulders or room to park. The county recently installed dedicated bike lanes on Hummer Road to make it safer, but bikers will be injured or killed with all the additional traffic and the challenges that it poses, or the lanes will not be used. By agreement with VDOT, Hummer Road is and will continue to be limited to 2 lanes. These conditions cannot be fixed by further study. Many specific design deficiencies can be identified in the developer's plan, and to better understand them, we've introduced Figure 10, a color-coded key to a drawing that comes from page 11 of the nomination. Let me briefly tick off the problem areas. Horseshoe Drive is 30 feet wide and 750 feet from the congested Little River Turnpike. There's limited access to the complex marked on our drawing with blue stars. It's going to produce gridlock and backup, extending to the Beltway, exit, and beyond. Residents will be landlocked if they are in the proximity of the complex's crowded and few entrances. The loading docks are situated on residential streets, so traffic and bikes would be blocked every time a truck had to back up all day long. There are only 41 on-site surface parking places, so traffic's going to back up as drivers circle looking around for spaces. There's insufficient clearances for emergency vehicles. The entrance to the parking garages are poorly situated. These are just a few things I'm going to highlight, I'm sure, by people who follow me. High-density mixed-use development at this site has insurmountable problems that no amount of study can remedy. And in fact, the site has been studied in the past, so any further study would be an unjustifiable waste of the county's resources. Devoting any further time to the nomination does have costs. Your staff told you it would be a waste of their time. Let them focus on redevelopment projects where they are needed. A prospective developer of a site in central Annandale may not be able to get financing, because as long as this project is still on the books, it is going to look as though the market is saturated. If this nomination is added to the work plan, it tells me either the staff has to be added at an unnecessary cost to taxpayers, or a worthwhile project in the central Annandale or another area of the county gets sidetracked. Either way, it looks like poor management. If a proposed project cannot be defended on its merits, based on the documents that were submitted, and this one cannot, then it deserves to be rejected. The task force was apparently seduced by the idea of doing anything in Annandale, but wishful thinking is not consistent with sound planning or good government. If a developer had intentions of acquiring commercial buildings that front Little River Turnpike or Hummer Road, then surely these parcels would have been included within the scope of the nomination. Their exclusion means this is not in the developer's plan, and wishing does not make it so. The planning process is supposed to identify the type of use that is appropriate for individual areas and to promote smart growth in the right location. This comprehensive plan and staff recommendation are absolutely correct because they are based on solid research into the characteristics and needs of our unique neighborhood. Please vote to accept the recommendation of your professional staff and decline to add this nomination to the work program. Thank you.